Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Dr. Jengyu Lai from Rochester Clinic. Today with me is the best physical therapist in Rochester, Minnesota, right in the Med City, and who is going to present with me at the Community of Wellness Symposium in Gala on April 17th. Okay, Chad, can you tell us about yourself?
Hello, Dr. Lai, and you are too kind, so thank you so much. My name is Chad Hergott, and I'm a physical therapist who's been treating orthopedic patients since 2007, so around 18 years. I'm excited to talk about at the symposium this upcoming week, talking about what exercise is and how it benefits you specifically, how it benefits your brain, your heart, your lungs, your body, your skin, cognition, everything. So we can get into some hints if we want, like previews of what we're talking about, or we can leave it as a surprise. It's up to you, Dr. Lai.
Yeah, we're going to talk about exercise as medicine. As people realize that physical activity is one of the 6 pillars of a healthy lifestyle. And it is an integral part, it's not a separate part of a healthy lifestyle. So can you tell us about exercise as medicine? What is the concept of exercise as medicine?
Yeah, so if exercise, if someone could bottle up exercise and then put it into a pill, it would be the most sought after pill around in regards to chronic diseases and degenerative diseases, because the effects are absolutely amazing. If you are exercising appropriately, how it connects to another pillar, we'll say like stress management, is if the more you exercise, the better you exercise, it will allow you to have decreased stress. Exercise will help to decrease blood pressure, increase bone density, decrease all the things that you would want to get a medication for, exercise can do, and it's free, and it's the world's greatest medication.
Right, and I think during the symposium, we also want to define what exercise is, because people a lot of times hear exercise, they're intimidated. They feel like, oh, I'm out of shape, or I have a lot of pain, and I'm embarrassed to show people how much I could do in public. So let's talk about how you define exercise and how it is different from, we call it physical activity.
Okay, so the great thing about exercise is anything could be exercise. If we were to boil exercise down into 2 components, it would be aerobic fitness and muscular strength. But you don't have to be in a gym lifting weights to get the strength training benefits. You could be outside gardening. You could be moving a couch. You could be walking with some friends to get some cardio exercise in. One thing that we're going to talk about is a metabolic equivalent of a task, or a MET. And so there's different things you can say. If, let's say, you're dancing with your partner, and that, if depending on the dance you're doing, is a certain activity level, and you can compare that to exercise like riding a bike. You could talk about walking up the stairs at a certain pace, and you could compare that with doing lunges. So exercise doesn't just happen in a gym; it happens all around us. And once people get that concept and they start moving their body more, that's where the medicine of exercise really helps to improve their life.
Yes. So during the symposium, during the presentation, I'm actually going to introduce 2 strategies. The number 1 is called zero-time exercise. That's the way to take any obstacle out of anyone's exercise routine, or remove their excuse. Basically, it's just like how you can incorporate any activity into your daily routine, daily life. Doing some stretching, or just like climbing stairs instead of using the elevator, like that, to really get any movement into your daily routine. And that's we call it a zero-time exercise. Would that be a good strategy to you?
Yeah, that would be a great strategy. And there's as you mentioned, trying to remove the barriers. One thing you want to talk about during the presentation is kind of barriers of your body, and pain is a huge barrier. So I want to create kind of a recipe of what you can do to move your body correctly to overcome some of those obstacles of pain. And it can be done, and it can be done for anybody.
Right. And I remember a few years ago, we did a project with Minnesota Department of Health. They called Let's Walk Minnesota. And there was a project to promote walking as part of the osteoarthritis awareness activity. And people had a misconception that they had pain, especially knee pain, they shouldn't walk. But research has shown that the more they move, the less pain they will get, or the more pain relief they will receive. So there's a misconception about pain.
Yeah, that's one of the very points I want to talk about in the presentation. There's numerous studies that show progressive exercise, resistance and ambulation or walking will help improve anyone. It'll improve their strength, their functionality, pain scores, and even with people with advanced arthritis. So once you figure out the steps of the recipe, it's you can enjoy the benefits of it.
Yes, absolutely. And during our symposium, there are four main areas or the topic we're going to discuss. One of them is insulin resistance. And one thing is glucose is the main fuel source for the muscles. And research has shown that walking after meals can greatly improve the blood sugar level. And so we encourage people to walk or exercise after meal, and they will drive more glucose into the muscles instead of staying in the blood. And what would you recommend people would do after meal? Especially, a lot of people are working, they only have short lunch break. It's not that they can go out for 30 minutes, an hour, something like that.
Yeah, I would say finding something that is enjoyable should be the number one thing. If you're not going to enjoy it, you're not going to do it consistently. So if it is going out and walking, if it's a nice day, it's not too rainy, not too snowy, that would be a great thing. But even just being active in your seat, practice some sit to stands. You could just move your body through its full range of motion, and then kind of lean against the desk, maybe do some push-ups. The opportunities are limitless. Exercise is free. You just need to know where to look.
And something I catches my attention is stretching. I do believe that stretching is really the activity that people ignore or not aware of the importance of the stretching. So what would you recommend people to increase stretching in their daily life?
Yeah, so I always tell people if I tell my patients that if everyone could move their body through their full range of motion and they could do so without some significant muscular tightness, I would have 50% less patients, 50% fewer patients walking through my door. Don't tell them. I'll tell them. But I'll tell you at the symposium coming up. But yeah, there's even in a chair, you can go through and just stretch pretty much all your major muscle groups in your upper body without even leaving the chair. You will have to stand up a little bit. In fact, people just should stand more. Our hip flexors get too tight when they sit, and that's a huge increases low back pain a lot. So yeah, even while you're listening to this lecture on YouTube, you could be doing some different stretches. You can grab one side of your body, rotate a little bit, make sure it's pain-free, go to the other side, grab the bottom of your chair, stretch, hold the stretches for about 35 seconds. Everything should be pain-free. So if it's creating pain, you'd want to go a little more lightly And if it is creating pain, move on to a different muscle group and then come back 30, 40 seconds later. Chances are it'll be less painful because you've gotten a little bit of blood returning to the muscle and a little bit of inhibition of the muscle tone, which is what stretching is great for.
Yes, I remember 15 years ago when I first learned about the lifestyle medicine. One of the pioneers was Dr. Joe Furman. And I went to his presentation and he was talking about you don't need to go to the gym. Your body is a gym. So you can just use your body and use your own body weight. You can do just about any exercise at home. Then you don't need to have an excuse or not being able to go to the gym.
Yeah. And anything that has mass could be a weight. It could be your luggage filled with some clothes. It could be a gallon of water. A gallon of water around 8 pounds. So it has, and that already comes with a handle, and you can easily adjust the weight in that. So everything could be a weight, but you don't even need those. Just bearing weight through our joints helps our joints, it helps our muscles. And you're correct, there's a big culture of going to the gym, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's some great camaraderie. There's with that camaraderie, you can get a lot better compliance. If your best friend is saying, "Hey, we got to get to the gym today," you're not going to refuse. But you don't need it is the point. You bear weight through your bones. You get your muscles moving against resistance, and you're going to start seeing some benefits.
Yeah, great point. So the two things I have, number one is your point that when you're doing the stretching, you have pain, don't just force it, go to other muscle group and come back. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. With anything, if it's stretching or if it's strengthening, do one set. I tell patients, if I say do 2 sets of 15, that does not mean 1 set of 30. You do 1 set of 15, move on to another muscle group that you're stretching or strengthening, and then come back to it and do that second set of 15. That is it is a game changer, and for exercising without pain. Exercise brings blood flow everywhere, to the brain, to the skin, to the muscles, and so you do a little bit, you reap the benefits of that blood flow, rest, move on to something else, come back to it, and that's how you're going to find some success.
So not really going through the so-called no pain, no gain thing.
Yeah, there might be some discomfort with exercise, but if you're having significant amounts of pain, that pain, no pain, no gain might be accurate, because if it's painful, you're not going to do it, and if you're not going to do it, there's no gains. So no pain, no gain. I don't fully subscribe to that. There will be some discomfort, but there's ways to mitigate against that. But then when you come back to it, it'll be a little better. And consistency. You come back to it the next 2 days from now or a week from now, you're going to see those incremental gains.
Good. And then the second thing I want to touch is what you mentioned about muscle mass. So as I mentioned earlier, that muscle is the #1 tissue in the organ in the body that use glucose. So it really helps the maintain your diabetes management or prevent diabetes. So how do you build muscles? There's something called resistant training. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so you actually build muscle. This is the secret thing is you build muscle by sitting on a couch. But in order to build that muscle, you have to break it down. And the breaking it down is resistance training. So if you are not breaking down your muscle by using it, you are not going to build any. And we lose so much of our muscle mass. Our peak muscle mass happens in our, let's say, our 30s for most people, and then it goes down from there. But if you were to, let's say, find a weight and lift it. So let's say you have your gallon of milk and you lift it, and all you can do, and you're doing a biceps curl, and you can do that 15 times. If you're doing that 15 times and it's not a problem, we need to find more weight. But So with the resistance training, we would want you to be doing, we'll say about 8 to 15 repetitions. And if you can do 15 easily, you need to increase that resistance because when you increase the resistance, that's how you can build more muscle. And you build more muscle, as you're saying, you drive muscle drives. Muscle is imperative for glucose and fighting against type 2 diabetes or diabetes.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. That's the best way. This is by doing a insulin resistance. So this is actually something I learned from endocrinologist, Dr. Xu, who will be coming to our symposium to talk about insulin resistance too, is why the Asians have a higher risk of having type 2 diabetes. That's because Asians tend to have a smaller body frame. We have less muscle mass. So even we don't eat a lot of sweets or carbohydrate or fatty food, we have less muscles to use up those glucose after meal. And that's why we tend to have a higher tendency of having the type 2 diabetes. And if someone, do we need to have supplements to build muscles?
I mean, it depends on who you ask, but in generally, no. In general, no. You can get everything that you need. You can get through your diet. Some people might have to work harder to get, let's say, protein, which is imperative. It's easier to get if you're consuming maybe animal products. But there's plenty of places where you can find protein, and I'm staring at the guy who's the best suited in this conversation to help us find it.
Yeah, I do believe that you don't really need supplements to build your muscles, but you can see all sorts of supplements and supplemental drink with supplements inside, and I do think that will be a harmful effect because the body has something we call the nitrogen balance every day. If you don't use it, that will be secreted out of our body. But then they are really going through our kidneys. That means we're increasing the burden on our kidneys if we eat way too much protein than we need. And so we talk about, and at the beginning, you say there's two groups of exercise. One is cardio. What will be the best situation for people to do the cardio exercise?
With cardio, what I would say, it just depends on your level of fitness. When we could talk about maybe a metabolic equivalent of a task, the nice thing about that is I could, if I'm walking at, well, let's say a certain miles per hour, I can, make that into I can equivalent that to a certain met. And so anything that gets your blood pressure up, your blood flowing through your body, anything that gets air moving in and out of your lungs is great exercise. So if you're a biker, if a bicyclist, get out there. If you like to kayak, canoe, just maybe row a little faster. Walk a little faster, just sit to stand out of your chair, that does build muscle strength. But if you use it as like an interval training, that will help you to get, push more air in and out of our lungs. And again, it just has to be sustainable. It has to be something that you enjoy, because if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to continue with it. So find something you enjoy. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. Would you go into detail of explaining what interval training is?
Yeah. So I won't touch on this as much on the presentation this year, but there would be interval training. Sometimes people might call it HIIT training or high intensity interval training. And basically what that is it's just moving your body. Let's say if you're going to go for a walk, You're going to walk at a certain self-selected pace that's really comfortable for you, something you can do, and maybe hold a conversation with a friend. If you're holding a conversation with a friend and you're not able to sing and dance, then that would be maybe a moderate intensity exercise if you feel your heart rate increasing, but you're still able to have a conversation like this. Like my heart rate is increasing right now, so even on this
You're doing
conversation. So
great.
yeah, so but if you're able to do that, then you would be considered like a moderate intensity. But then go for a period of time of a little higher intensity. So go for a walk, just speed up for 10, 15, 20 seconds to the point where, hey, maybe I'm not able to hold a great conversation, and just walk that speed for 10 seconds, 15 seconds, depending on your level of training, and then come back down. If you spend with the American Heart Association and the World Health Organization and American College of Sports Medicine, they all kind of agree on numbers, which we'll talk about at the presentation. But in general, the more you can get your activity level up, the less of the exercise that you have to do. So just keep in mind, if you're going to do more of a vigorous exercise, you only have to do maybe 30 minutes of it a week. If you're doing a moderate intensity exercise where you're going on a walk with a friend, you're getting your heart rate up, that might need closer to 150 minutes. And if you're doing interval training, just kind of somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I remember you could use any activity to turn into interval training. I remember I used to do that interval training with kettlebell. By swing at different speed and different. So it's in terms of the interval training. If I understand correctly, it's not the speed or it's not the tool. It's more of how you gauge your heart rate. That's how we determine interval training.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Someone who is a world-class athlete, and they, let's say they want to go for a run at a 10-minute per mile pace. That's not going to be interval training or even a high intensity for them, because they're fully trained. So then that's the far end of the spectrum. You might get somewhere in the middle of the spectrum like me, where I can walk, bike, run a little bit, and that will increase my heart rate, make me sweat a little bit. But then some of my patients and some people who are a little more deconditioned, they might only be walking at 2 miles an hour, but it might be a stretch for them. And so it's what your conditioning is. And so your interval training might look different. Everyone's interval training will look different. It's just what it means to you, and those are some of the guides, like if feeling your breath, maybe a little sweat glistening. But yeah, if you're not able to hold a conversation or only speak a few sentences, that's a vigorous exercise, and that might not be for everyone right now, depending on their condition. Let's say pulmonary or cardiac condition, but the really cool thing about exercise is as you get better at it, you can do more and more. Your heart will respond appropriately, your lungs will respond appropriately. And then what was easier for you, or what was hard for you a week ago, in a month or two, that might be just easy. And then it's time to push yourself a little more.
Yes. So during our symposium, if you hear exercise and you start sweating, during our symposium, we have one activity called Walk with the Dog. It's an international activity organization that you will work with healthcare professionals. And then we'll have a few minutes of presentation and then walk. During the walk, you can ask any questions to the healthcare professionals. And it's just a simple walk, not very heavy. So you can help you introduce you to the physical activities called Walk with the Dog. I think Chad had a great fun leading the group last year.
Yeah, yeah. Last year we did some interval training, and someone went off course maybe a little bit, and took their crew off course. But yeah, it was great. And the cameraman definitely got his interval training. He followed us, and he was the real rock star that day.
Yes. So I don't want to give away too much stuff because we too have to manage that exercise as medicine session. We don't want to give away too much information. So if you're interested in listening to us, join us this April 17th and 18th at Mayo Civic Center in Rochester, Minnesota. You can look at our website, lotushealthfoundation.org, and purchase tickets there. And also, how do people ask you questions if they have any questions?
Yeah, so if people want to get in contact with me before the conference, a great email from me would be care, C-A-R-E, at reliefphysicaltherapy.com. So
That's great. And if you join our symposium in person or virtual, you will have the app. And with the app, you have the access to ask questions directly on the app. You can also watch Chad and me present the exercise as a medicine for 90 days. Think about how many times each day you can watch Chad and me. How could people not register with this symposium?
I'll think of a couple jokes and we'll really liven it up.
Oh, well, it has been nice talking to you, Chad. Thank you
Yes.
for joining me today.
Yeah, you too, Dr. Lai.
Yeah, come. I will see you on Thursday. Remember to check out lotushealthfoundation.org and check out 2025 Community of Wellness Symposium and Gala. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you so much.